Good morning, and welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati. My name is Reverend Connie Simon, and we are delighted that you are here with us in our urban community situated on the ancestral lands of the Adena, the Hopewell, the Miami, and Shawnee people. Here in this community, we welcome all with love, support learning and spiritual growth, serve our wider community, and work for justice, equity, and inclusion. Throughout the service this morning, you'll hear news and other information about our services, about our community, and about the work we do. If you hear anything that you'd like to know more about, or you're just interested in speaking with someone from the church, please feel free to email us at member-care@firstuu.com, and we'll get right back to you. We'll begin this morning, as we do every morning, by lighting our chalice, the chosen symbol of our faith, and we do so with Thirsty by Reverend Greg Pelley. And so we gather from the ebb and flow of our lives, thirsty for connection to ourselves, thirsty for connection to others, thirsty for connection to the larger life. As we light this chalice, may all who gather here be filled with joy and hope, filled with compassion and love. Here, may we be filled so that we may pour ourselves out into the world. Please join now in singing the First Unitarian Church Vision Song. The words will appear on the screen.
Some stories, like the story that I told last week, are better if they are framed. But there are some stories, like the one this week, that require no framing, no introduction. But before we run it, I'm going to invite you all to think about who you are in today's story, and then try to answer the question at the end.
Something happened in our town. A child's story about racial injustice by Marianne Solano, Marietta Collins, and Ann Hazard. Illustrated by Jennifer Zavoyne. Content warning. This book contains references to state-sanctioned racial violence. Something bad happened in our town. The news was on the TV, the radio, and the internet. The grown-ups didn't think the kids knew about it, but the kids in Miss Garcia's class heard some older kids talking about it, and they had questions. After school, Emma asked her mother, "Why did the police shoot that man?" "It was a mistake," her mother said. "I feel sad for the man and his family." "Yes, the police thought he had a gun," said her father. "It wasn't a mistake," said her sister Liz. "The cops shot him because he was black." Emma was confused. "He is brown, not black," she said. "Some black people have dark brown skin and some have light brown skin," Emma's father explained. "Black usually means African American. Most of their ancestors were brought here from Africa as slaves." "I know what a slave is," said Emma. "That's when you have to do whatever the other person says." "Yes, slaves had to do whatever white people told them to do, even after slavery ended. White people didn't let black people live where they wanted, go to school with white people, or vote." "Who are white people?" "White people came here from places in Europe or Russia or other countries. We are white people, even though our skin is light tan." "Did our family do those bad things a long time ago?" asked Emma. "Yes," answered her mother. "Back then, many white people thought that they were better than black people, even though it wasn't true." Liz added, "Some people still think most black men and boys are dangerous, even though they're not." "Was the man that got shot dangerous?" asked Emma. "No," her mother said. "Shooting him was a mistake. It was a mistake that is part of a pattern." "Like the pattern on my blanket?" Emma asked. "Yes, but this pattern is being nice to white people and mean to black people. It's an unfair pattern." "Suppose you had a birthday party and invited everyone in your class except the black kids," her mother said. "How would the black kids feel?" "They would be sad," Emma said, "or mad." "And you would be missing out because you never know who's going to be your best friend," said Liz. "And you can help others to be fair," said her mother. "Like telling Anna to stop teasing Ling about her name?" asked Emma. Her mother gave her a hug. "Yes, just like that." In another house, Josh asked his mother, "Can police go to jail?" "Yes," said his mother. "Why do you ask?" "That white policeman who shot the black man," said Josh, "will he go to jail?" "What he did was wrong," said his mother. "But he won't go to jail," said his father. "Why not?" asked Josh. "Cops stick up for each other," said Josh's brother Malcolm, "and they don't like black men." Josh was confused. "Why not? Some police are black." "You're right," said his mother. "Uncle James is a police officer, and so is my friend Kenya." "There are many cops, black and white, who make good choices," said his father, "but we can't always count on them to do what's right." Malcolm added, "I could get shot by the police just because I'm black, even if I don't do anything wrong." "That's not fair," Josh said. "What if it was a white man in the car? Would the police have shot him?" "They probably wouldn't have even stopped the car," said his father. "Sometimes white people are treated better than black people," said his mother. "But it's not right. Everybody should be treated fairly." Josh's mother gave him a hug. We're proud of who we are. Harriet Tubman, Martin Luther King Jr., and Nelson Mandela were strong and brave Black leaders. They showed us that we can stand up for our rights and set good examples for others. They were treated unfairly, but helped others learn to be more fair. Some people haven't learned yet, said his father angrily. Why are you mad? Asked Josh. I'm mad that we're still treated poorly sometimes, but I can use my anger to make things better, said his father. Black people have a lot of power if we work together to make changes. I have power, Josh said, and I'm smart. His father smiled. You're right. His mother added, and you can change people's heart by sticking up for someone who's not treated fairly. Like how Malcolm sticks up for me when the kids tease me about my glasses? Josh asked. He tells them to step off. Just like that, his parents said. The next day, a new kid joined Emma and Josh's class. His name was Ahmad, and he was from a country far away. Ahmad didn't know where to sit or what to do because it was his first day in school. He talked a little bit, but it was hard to understand him. He said he was learning English. After lunch, the class went outside to play soccer. Daniel and Sophia picked kids to be on their teams. All of the kids were picked to be on a team, except Ahmad. Daniel said Ahmad probably didn't know how to play because he was new. Sophia said Ahmad might not be good at soccer. Josh remembered what his mother said about sticking up for people who are treated unfairly. Emma remembered what her mother said about unfair patterns and birthday parties. All of a sudden, Ahmad wasn't alone. Josh and Emma were leading him to their team. We have enough kids on our team, Daniel said. We don't need him. But Josh was ready. Step off, he said. He's playing. Yeah, said Emma. We don't want to miss out. And just like that, Emma and Josh gained a new friend and started a better pattern in their school. Parents and caregivers, the next few pages contains information on how to talk to the kids in your life about racial injustice. Feel free to pause and read at your leisure. I wonder what steps you can take to weave a better pattern where you are.
That is a difficult story to hear. It's a story that, even though it was written just now, very recently, it's the same story that I remember having, the same conversation that I had with my parents when I was younger. Why are we treated like that? And it is heartbreaking that that question is still being asked today. It is heartbreaking that we are still dealing with situations where people are shot or excluded or unfairly treated just because of who they are, where they come from. And yet, there are glimmers of something that feels strange to call it hope or bright spots. Yet this week, the killers of Ahmaud Arbery, who were not policemen, just regular folks, like any one of us in this room, those 3 men were convicted and sentenced for their crime. I would like to think that it's the last time it will happen. We know it's not. So let's take a second and just hold in our hearts that story we heard and the ways that it is still playing out in our world today before we continue with our joys and sorrows. Before me are stones and water. The stones represent the joys and the sorrows that have happened in our lives since last we were together. The water represents the power of love and community and the spirit of all that is good in this world. We drop 1 stone for all of the Joshes and the Emmas and the Omads who are asking questions and seeking answers. We drop another stone in the hope that those of us who have the power to make change and who are in the position of requesting change, that we find the courage to do so. And we drop a stone for all the parents and caregivers who may be faced with that question, that they can find the courage and the wisdom and the strength and the knowledge to answer that question truthfully when it's asked. We drop another stone for the losses in our community this week. The losses in the form of deaths. We've lost Archbishop Desmond Tutu. We've lost Sidney Poitier. We've lost countless others. Some who are not famous, not well known, but are known and loved by us. We drop a stone for our losses in the hope that this water will soothe our sorrows. And we know that life is a cycle of joys and sorrows, that there are still happy things, good things that are happening in this world. New babies are being born. Fritz and Jenny Casey Leininger are new grandparents again and are celebrating. We drop a stone for all the new parents, the new grandparents, the people who have found out they're about to be parents, for all of the joys and the happy moments in our lives. We drop a stone that that joy may be amplified and soothe those who are hurting. Today, by way of meditation, I'd like to share with you something written by someone I consider to be incredibly wise, my mentor, Reverend Rosemary Bray McNatt. It seems fitting that I share this with you today. She writes, "The truth is this: if here is no justice, there will be no peace. If we cannot bring justice into the small circles of our individual lives, we cannot hope to bring justice to the world. And if we do not bring justice to the world, none of us is safe, and none of us will survive. Nothing that we do is more important than making justice real, here, where we are. Hard as it is our most important task." This morning's flowers were donated anonymously by a member who just wanted to share some joy with us today. They said, "just because." So I invite you all to join me in a moment of silent meditation, reflection, or prayer as we enjoy these beautiful flowers. If there's one thing we've learned over the last, almost 24 months, it's that the coronavirus doesn't care about our plans, our intentions, or what we think we want to do with our time. And it's affected us again this week. Our speaker, Rickell Howard Smith, was going to join us live this morning on stage for a conversation about the work of the Center for Social Justice at the Urban League. And then COVID. So she is quarantining right now, but still wanted to share her message with us. So instead of doing it live, it will be recorded. Enjoy.
Good morning. I'm Lisa Davis Roberts, and today, on behalf of the Social Justice team, I am so pleased to introduce my friend, Rickell Howard Smith. Rickell is a civil rights attorney and a policy advocate specializing in criminal and justice reform. She's dedicated her career to advancing social justice for everyone, especially the most vulnerable among us, including indigent clients facing eviction, children in the child welfare system, and incarcerated people. I had the privilege of working with Rickell for a few years at the Greater Cincinnati Foundation before she was tapped as the most obvious and best choice to become the founding executive director of the new Center for Social Justice at the Urban League of Greater Southwestern Ohio. So today, we have this wonderful opportunity to sit and talk with Rickell and learn about the Center for Social Justice. What is it? How does it work? Why is this work so important? I have many questions, but in the interest of time, I've whittled them down to a few, and so we'll start. First, with a welcome to Rickell. Thank you for being here. And can you give us an introduction to the Center for Social Justice?
Sure. Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you to the congregation for having me here today. The Center for Social Justice is an initiative that's housed at the Urban League. It was launched in summer of 2020 in direct response to the social unrest that we saw across the country and protesting against police brutality. The thought was that we needed an organization and/or initiative here in our region to make sure that police reform was advanced and pushed forward. There are a lot of organizations here that work on criminal justice reform, but there seemed to be a gap in having an organization that focused solely on policing, specifically in the municipalities that are surrounding the city of Cincinnati. We are heavily policed in this region. We have 45 law enforcement agencies just here in Hamilton County, lots of departments to work with, and lots of very diverse communities with diverse needs. So the center was launched in the summer, and we worked really hard to create a focus, and our mission here in this region is to work collaboratively with law enforcement departments and communities to affect change in 4 key areas. 1, we want to eliminate racial profiling as a practice. 2, we want to reduce uses of force overall. 3, we want to increase police accountability when we know police officers have engaged in misconduct. And 4, which is the cornerstone of our work, we want to establish community oversight in every single police department in municipality here in our region. We really think that that is the most important piece of our work, because that is what's going to sustain any reforms that are implemented. In addition to that, we think it's the taxpayers or the residents that should have an opportunity to decide what public safety and justice looks like in their own community. So those are our goals. How do we execute this work? So we meet and work directly with law enforcement departments and communities. We engage in policy advocacy. We want to change policies that are bad and lift up policies that are good. We also engage in a lot of data collection. The National Call for Reform exposed the fact that we don't know a lot about policing, especially not here in this region. So we're collecting a lot of data and reporting it to the community. And then lastly, we serve as technical assistance and support to community members and advocates that want to change public safety in their own neighborhoods.
That's a lot.
It is a lot.
It's incredible. I love it because it's so comprehensive as a strategy, and then it sounds like it's also very tactical. And so I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. And when you talk about one of your core strategies at the center is building community leadership, how do you do that? What does that involve? So
the program that we have was really designed based on talking to stakeholders, identifying gaps that we have here in our community when it comes to community leadership, and also some of our personal philosophies at the Urban League. So in terms of building community leadership, I would say the first step is you have to listen to the community about what they like about their community, about what they want to see, what their vision is for their future. And in this context, policing in particular, we work in service to the community, not on behalf of them and not in front of them, right? So we have to listen first. 2, we provide information. So I referred to data collection and letting folks know the state of policing in their own municipality, jurisdiction, and neighborhood. So as we have these national calls for reform in certain areas, to reform use of force policies, people need to know what their local department uses, what their policies are, how they're executed, and we want to sort of break open that box and make sure that it's transparent so that they know that they're fighting for the right things that will help advance their vision. And then the third sort of principle that we live by when it comes to community leadership is once we've identified community leaders and armed them with information, we step out of the way. we're always there to support, right? To provide information, to guide, but it really is up to the residents and taxpayers to advance that work and sustain it. So those are sort of the principles that we live by, and we have been fortunate to link up with some community members, particularly in jurisdictions like Woodlawn, Amberley Village, some folks in Dale High, in St. Bernard, who have stepped up to say, hey, we want to learn more, and we're working through that process with them now.
That's wonderful. So you're empowering the people that you work with. And then the other part of this I see as you move from protest to policy is working closely with the police departments themselves. You've been talking about that. What's the reception been? Are they receptive to the work you are bringing to them? And how's that going?
I will say it's been a mixed bag. I think that there are some departments that are really excited and we're ready to partner with a community-based group on some of these things that even they feel like need to change. For example, in the village of Woodlawn, when we connected with their police chief, he said, I've been trying to create a public safety commission that's led by residents for years. And I just need a voice from the community and someone that can help put some capacity, around gathering residents together. So that was sort of like a half-baked plan already. And Woodlawn is actually at this point one of our strongest partners because the leadership and the officers were ready, when we introduced ourselves. I would say other departments, we've received some responses where people feel like everything is fine. We don't have any problems in our jurisdiction. And if that is the case, great, but we still think that it's important to build those relationships, because if there is ever a critical incident that happens in that jurisdiction, we want that department and the community to be able to partner with us, and we can serve as a convener to start those conversations that may need to be had at that point.
That's wonderful. So, and imagining like Woodlawn, these other communities might be kind of helping you create the roadmap for going forward. And do the police departments talk to each other? I mean, does that impact how you work with them?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So pretty early on, we were invited to speak in front of the Hamilton County Chiefs Association. It is a body that has been in existence for decades. The chiefs get together, I believe, every other month and talk about pressing issues. They do have a leadership board, et cetera. And when we started talking to departments, they actually told us, you should really come and talk to the Chiefs Association. So we did that around April of 2020. It was a warm reception. And after that presentation that we did to them initially, we booked more meetings, more individual meetings with departments that wanted to dig deeper and maybe identify ways that we can partner. We have also recently gather information via a questionnaire or survey that we sent out to all of the departments about some of their policies regarding use of force, the technology that they use, with the purpose of taking this information and publishing it for community. This survey actually is scheduled to be published next week around MLK Day. And the Hamilton County Chiefs Association was very critical in helping us get individual departments to respond to that survey. Happy to say that we have over a 60% response rate, which is really great for a survey. And what that does is it provides more concrete and credible information to communities. So that was a really solid partnership that we're thankful for. So the short answer is yes, they absolutely talk to each other. They have collaborations, and we're really trying to use that group and that collaboration that already exists to be able to build a larger partnership throughout the county.
Fantastic. And that leads to my next question, which is kind of what's next? What kind of recommendations do you anticipate making to these the departments?
Well, we have a list of 10 to 15, I believe, recommendations that will be included in this survey report. And I will make sure that that the members of this church have access to that report as well when it's released. I'll give a couple of examples of some information that we've found out and reacted to with a recommendation. So the community has called for each department to have body cams, right? Some type of surveillance cam that can record interactions with police officers and citizens during traffic stops, etc. There are several municipalities locally that don't have body cams. And as we started talking to jurisdictions, found out that it's not because they don't want them, it's because they can't afford them. They are very, very expensive. And that's just one issue that is really rooted in funding and cost that we identified. So one of our overall recommendations is that the departments collaborate and invest in shared services, right? We talk about that in the nonprofit world or in the government agency space, but it rarely happens in law enforcement. And we really do think that if they pool their funds together, develop their own policies, use the same vendor, then they all can afford it. And both the law enforcement agencies and the community win in that situation.
That's great. I can really see where the work you do is so critical, both for the safety of our community and for the police officers themselves. It's really a win-win.
Absolutely.
That's great. I also see on your website that you partner with a lot of organizations in our community to do the work you do. And some of these organizations I think might be familiar to our congregation and some are not, but I wondered if you could lift up a couple of the organizations you do partner with and tell us a little bit about the work you do together. Sure.
So we have tons of partners. We currently have 3 staff members at the Center for Social Justice in our department. So it is critical that we not only partner with other organizations that have different expertise, but also have more capacity in areas that we know are critical to move forward. So one of our strongest and earliest partners is Ohio Justice and Policy Center. I am a former staff attorney there, worked under David Singleton. And I just want a quick shout out to Dr. Bozian. I don't know if he's still a church member, but Dr. Bozian was a member of this church and served as a medical expert in my cases for years on a volunteer basis. And I know that he had a really strong connection and dedication to this congregation. So, but while I was there, really got a chance to build relationships that were long lasting. So as soon as it was announced that I would be the head of this initiative, David Singleton and I sat down and talked about how we were going to partner. One key and very, I would say, public success that we've had in this past year is that we were able to partner with OJPC and Cincinnati Black United Front to revise Cincinnati, so the City of Cincinnati Police Department's warrant policy. And that policy that they had for executing warrants was very similar to the policy in Louisville that a lot of people credit for leading to the death of Breonna Taylor in 2020. And so we were able to work with the department, with the city, to revise that policy in order to preserve life, so that officers did not, in the process of executing a warrant, go in with guns ablazing. What we found out when we sat down with the police department is they didn't want people to get hurt either, right? So we really focus on this preservation of life. How can you execute, a search warrant that is really important? You have to do that in order to maintain public safety, but also make sure that everyone, including kids, people that are not involved in the actual, search, how does everybody walk away alive? And we were able to make some critical changes. There was some media attention around that, but it was such a phenomenal win for us in this partnership to get that policy change within 1 year of doing this work.
Congratulations. I love that. And that's such a great example of your moving from protest to policy. So thanks. That makes my heart so happy. I'm so glad you're here and doing the work you're doing.
Thank you.
I'm a fan, as you can tell. So speaking of partnerships, what else can we do as a congregation to support your work besides supporting you through the Share the Plate collection that we're doing this month?
So, as I mentioned, establishing community oversight is the cornerstone of what we do, and community leadership. So, first and foremost, if there's anyone in the congregation that is interested in advocating in their own community for reform, or even just learning more to decide if they want to advocate for changes, we want to work with you. We will provide you with, some people call it technical assistance. It's more information. We have capacity to do research for you, to collect data so that you can take a look with, along with your family and community members, to determine whether policing looks the way you want it to in your jurisdiction. So if you're interested at all, please, please, please feel free to contact us. Our email address is csj@ulgso.org. So shoot us an email, and we will have our community organizer reach out back to you. And typically, if it's just a one person, we'll set up a meeting. But if you have a group of people, then we'll put together a whole presentation so that you guys have a menu sort of things that we can help support you in.
That's great, thank you. And so I just want to say thank you so much for Rickell, for being here with us today. You are a neighbor of ours, so we're an Avondale church, and we'd love to know how we can support the organizations in our community. And so thank you so much for your time today and for sharing with us the work you do, and thank you for the work you do. It makes our community stronger, safer, more equitable, and just a better place for us all to live. Thank you.
Well, I will extend that thank you back to you, Lisa, and the entire congregation. I have been a witness and beneficiary of the work that this congregation has done in the community. And I am so just honored to partner with you guys in this way.
Thank you.
A goal of making our neighborhood and our area stronger, safer, more equitable. Good goals indeed. So as Lisa mentioned in the video, the Center for Social Justice is our January Share the Plate recipient. Every month, we identify an organization or a justice activity, a cause that we can support financially and with our time and treasure, our time and talent resources as well. The proceeds collected from our offering this month will go directly to support the work of the Center for Social Justice. One thing they didn't mention or didn't get a chance to discuss in great detail is the work that the center is doing in terms of voter rights and other social justice issues, the things that lead to this disparate treatment from law enforcement officials. So their efforts are truly aligned with the work that our own social justice team is doing. If you'd like to support the work of the center, you may do so by contributing either by text. You can text the word GIVE to 513-717-7373. If you have access to Breeze, our church membership communication system, you can click on Give Now. You can donate online at www.firstuu.com. You can mail your check to 536 Linton Street, Cincinnati, Ohio, made payable to First Unitarian Church with Center for Social Justice written in the corner. If you are giving electronically, you'll have a little drop-down box that will ask you where you want your donation to go. Please specify that it is for the January Share the Plate. If this is your first time visiting us, we invite you to let the virtual plate pass you by. Your presence is your gift to us today. Our offering will be gratefully received. We are living in the greatest revolution in history. A huge, spontaneous upheaval of the entire human race. Not a revolution planned and carried out by any particular party, race, or nation, but a deep, elemental boiling over of all the inner contradictions that have ever been. A revelation of the chaotic forces inside everybody. This is not something we have chosen, nor is it something we are free to avoid. Adapted from the words of Thomas Merton, and so fitting for our times. Each of us has an obligation, a responsibility, and a role to play in this revolution, that we can strive to make our world, our nation, our city, Avondale, a better, safer, more equitable place. So let's go encouraged by extinguishing our chalice by reciting together the words that appear on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. I want to share with you some of the things that are happening in our community right now, just a few announcements. First, immediately after the service, we will have coffee hour on Zoom. As you can imagine right now with the Omicron virus, we are not doing coffee here in person, but those who have access to Zoom, please join us for conversation and fellowship. If you don't have the Zoom link and would like to have it, please send an email to member-care@firstuu.com. Folks are waiting to respond to you and send you the link so you can join. Next, the week of January 16th, we will be holding 3 congregational conversations, again on Zoom, on future change and the post-pandemic church. For those of you who were able to view them beforehand, we did a service in October and one again on January 2nd, asking ourselves some questions in this new year of what things we would like to end, to amplify, to let go of, and to start again. We'll be asking these questions in the framework of societal change and the revolution that we just talked about, and how we do all of them in the spirit of love, community, and covenant. Those conversations will happen on January 16th, right after the service, January 18th at 7 p.m., which is Tuesday, and on Thursday, January 20th at 10 a.m. We will be having our winter congregational meeting on Sunday, January 23rd at 11:30 a.m. Registration will be required via Breeze. That link for registration will be going out this week.